The stars burned brightly above the command deck of the Soul's Resolve, the newest and most advanced human warship in the fleet. Captain Leila Marquez watched them, a silent witness to the dark expanse that lay ahead. The universe fell quiet, but she knew better. Silence was the brief lull before the storm, a whisper of calm before the inevitable clash of war. Humanity had risen from the ashes of near extinction thanks to the unity they forged among themselves and unlikely allies across the galaxy. Once underestimated, humans now stood as a symbol of resilience and defiance. But while their emergence had sparked hope, it had also ignited new fears and hatreds among older, established galactic powers. The last war had merely set the stage. Now, a new threat loomed, more insidious and deadly than ever. Captain Marquez turned to her crew, an eclectic mix of humans and alien allies. The faces she saw each bore their own battle scars, and behind their eyes lay stories of loss and survival. Her first officers, Kurth, a towering reptilian Zarian, flicked his amber eyes over the navigation display, his scales rippling with nervous energy. Beside him, Ensign Mia Tanaka, a young, resourceful engineer, was busy calibrating the weapon systems. Everyone was tense, knowing that this mission would test the strength of their fragile alliance. The Soul's Resolve had a singular mission: intercept and neutralize an enemy stronghold, the locus of a coordinated attack planned by the Iskrull Dominion, a species known for their hive-mind intelligence and single-minded pursuit of power. Intelligence reports indicated that the Iskrull were developing a weapon capable of wiping out entire solar systems, a horrifying escalation in their campaign to subjugate or eliminate those they deemed inferior. As the ship approached the coordinates of the Dominion stronghold, Marquez addressed her crew. Today, we face an enemy who has threatened our right to exist, our right to think, live, and dream. We're here to remind them that humanity does not bow, does not break. We're more than a species, we're an idea, a spirit of unyielding defiance, and today, we stand as one. The crew cheered, a determined, defiant roar that echoed through the ship. Each person knew that they were part of something greater than themselves, a legacy that spanned galaxies and races. The battle was fierce. Wave after wave of Iskrull, drones and fighter crafts hurled themselves against the shields of the Soul's Resolve. The ship shook under the assault, her defenses straining, but the crew worked with unparalleled unity and precision. Ensign Tanaka rerouted power from the lower decks to the shield generators, risking structural integrity. Kurth strategized movements that maximize firepower while minimizing exposure, barking orders with the controlled precision of a seasoned warrior. Hours turned to minutes, and minutes to heartbeats as the Soul's Resolve fought against overwhelming odds. Just as the ship's defenses were on the brink of collapse, Marquez seized her moment. "Activate the Arc Nova," she commanded, her voice a calm in the storm. The Arc Nova, an experimental weapon developed in the earliest days of humanity's rising, had been deemed dangerous, a last resort. But this was humanity's last chance to tip the scales. Energy surged through the ship as the Arc Nova hummed to life. In a single, blinding burst of light, the weapon unleashed a beam of concentrated plasma, piercing the Iskrull stronghold like a spear through darkness. For a moment, silence followed as the weapon's light faded. Then, the stronghold began to implode, fragments of metal and debris scattering across the vast expanse of space. The Iskrull ships hesitated, their hive mind faltering without their central command, and in that moment of weakness, the Soul's Resolve pressed forward, obliterating the remnants of the enemy forces. When the last enemy ship fell silent, Captain Marquez slumped back into her chair, exhaustion finally catching up. The crew cheered, their voices mingling with relief and victory. They had survived, but more importantly, they had shown the galaxy, once again, that humanity would not go quietly into the night. The struggle was far from over, but with every battle, every alliance, and every sacrifice, humanity grew stronger. As the Soul's Resolve turned toward home, Captain Marquez looked at the stars, a small smile gracing her lips. For humanity, the struggle would always continue, but so would their spirit, burning brightly against the night. The Soul's Resolve drifted through the vastness of space, victorious but scarred. Damage assessments poured in from every deck, hull breaches, critical systems barely functional, wounded crew members receiving emergency care. The Arc Nova's single use had left parts of the ship's infrastructure warped and unstable. For Captain Marquez, the adrenaline was beginning to fade. replaced by a deep exhaustion and the daunting reality of their situation. The battle was won, but whispers of doubt lingered in her mind. She had relied on an experimental weapon, an untested power whose destructive force had nearly torn apart her own ship, but desperate times had called for desperate measures, and in that moment, she'd had no other choice. Still, something didn't sit right with her. The Iskral's coordination, the ferocity of their attack, none of it felt random. They had been expecting humanity. Hours later, as the ship limped back to Coalition space, Marquez met with her poor crew in the dimly lit war room. Kurf, her first officers, stood with his arms crossed, his scaled brow furrowed. Ensign Tanaka, though visibly exhausted, had a spark of curiosity in her eyes, a young engineer's hunger to solve a puzzle. Dr. Amelia Cross, the ship's medical officers, was patching a gash on her own arm while listening intently, unfazed by the severity of their situation. Marquez addressed them. I know you all have questions, so do I. That strike was too targeted, too specific. The Iskral knew where we'd be, they knew our strength, and they nearly overwhelmed us. Someone leaked our movements to them. A grim silence settled over the room. Kurth's voice broke the quiet, deep and steady. Captain, are you suggesting there's a mole in the Coalition, or worse, on this ship? Marquez nodded. The Coalition has grown, and with growth comes cracks. Not everyone in this alliance believes in what humanity represents. Some believe that uniting with us is an unnecessary risk. I fear the Iskral have found a way to exploit those doubts. Ensign Tanaka leaned forward, eyes sharp. So, what's our next move? We're still light years from the nearest Coalition base, and if someone on this ship is feeding information to the enemy. Dr. Cross placed a gentle hand on Tanaka's shoulder. Calm yourself, Ensign. Paranoia will only cloud our judgment. We need clarity, not suspicion. Marquez folded her hands. Agreed. We have two objectives. First, we find out if there's a traitor among us. Second, we identify the source of the Iskral's new weapon technology. The Arc Nova was our last resort. If they're able to duplicate something of that magnitude, they'll have the power to level entire star systems. Days passed as the Soul's resolve continued its journey home, and suspicions began to fester among the crew. Routine became tense. Trust was a fragile thing on a ship where everyone knew someone might be watching. Then, a breakthrough arrived from an unlikely source. Tanaka, who had been combing through the ship's data logs, noticed encrypted messages embedded within standard transmission protocols. They were brief fragments of code disguised to blend into the system. Marquez assembled her trusted officers to reveal the findings. Whoever did this has training, Tanaka explained. They've hidden the data well, but it's their transmissions going up during combat, disguised as low-priority updates. They were sending information back to someone, maybe even giving away our position in real time. Marquez's eyes narrowed. Can you trace it? Tanaka hesitated. I can try, but the source signal bounces through downscenes of ship systems. I'll need more time. Marquez clenched her fists. Do whatever it takes, Ensign. We're getting close to the truth. 2 nights later, Tanaka finally cracked the code. In a hidden chamber deep within the engineering deck, a hidden transmitter pulsed with barely detectable signals. Disguised as minor system noise, the crew gathered around as Tanaka revealed the traitor's identity. Lieutenant Adam Green, a logistics officer and one of the quietest members of the crew. Green had been with the Coalition for years, a man whose loyalty seemed unquestionable. Marquez confronted him in the brig, her gaze hard and unforgiving. Why? She demanded. What did you hope to gain by selling us out to the Iskral? Green smirked, unrepentant. You humans think you can bend the galaxy to your will, but there are powers beyond your understanding, races who dominated this universe long before your species crawled from the mud. Humanity's arrogance will be its downfall. I was simply accelerating the process. Marquez felt a pang of fury, but she held her composure. You betrayed not only humanity, but every life on this ship, every ally who trusted us. Green's eyes darkened. You're fools, fighting battles you can't win. The Iskral aren't alone. There are more forces out there, and when they strike, humanity will be wiped from existence. You can delay the inevitable, but you can't stop it. Marquez left the brig in silence, a new fire in her heart. Green had confirmed what she had feared. Humanity wasn't just fighting the Iskral, They were facing a much larger threat, one that saw them as a spark too dangerous to leave alive. The Soul's resolve finally docked at Coalition Command. Battered but alive, Marquez and her crew received commendations, but they knew the war was far from over. Hidden powers were stirring, enemies in the shadows plotting their next move. Yet, despite the overwhelming odds, Marquez felt hope, for humanity's strength was its ability to rise in the face of struggle, to defy all who sought to snuff them out. As the captain looked at her crew, she made a vow: they would fight the darkness together, and no matter the odds, they would continue to rise. The struggle had only just begun. Captain Marquez stood at the observation deck of Coalition Command, her gaze locked on the vast fleet gathered in orbit around the central hub. Ships from every corner of the Coalition's reach had arrived, sleek vessels from the Ozari Republic, imposing cruisers from the Zorian Confederacy, and even the agile frigates of the Scifi, a recently allied race known for their speed and cunning. They were a sight to behold, yet each ship represented a different world, a distinct purpose, and a unique struggle. Unity was never easy to maintain, especially under the weight of an invisible enemy. Beside Marquez stood Admiral Relin, a veteran from the Coalition's early days. His face was stern, a mix of skepticism and admiration. "You did well out there, Captain. I've heard the Soul's resolve didn't just hold its ground, it made a statement, but we both know that this is only the beginning. There's a storm gathering beyond our sight." Marquez nodded. "The Iskral and their allies see us as a threat, Admiral, and with Lieutenant Green's warning, we know there's something bigger waiting in the wings. We need to be prepared." Relin motioned for her to follow him down the hall. "Come, there's something I want you to see." They entered a high-security lab, buried within the depths of Coalition Command. Inside, scientists, engineers, and strategists from every allied race pored over diagrams, holograms, and prototypes. At the center of the lab stood a large, heavily reinforced chamber. Inside, a sleek device pulsed with an ominous glow, its power evident even through layers of shielding. Marquez felt a shiver of recognition. "The Arc Nova." Relin nodded. "We've been developing it further. The Arc Nova was only one of several experimental weapons we salvaged during the Humanity Rising era. We've had to push technological limits just to handle the energy it produces. This is the culmination of everything we learned. We call it the Darkfire Initiative." Marquez studied the device, a sense of unease prickling at the edge of her thoughts. "But if the Iskral or their allies have access to something similar?" Relin's voice was grim. "That's why we've called this summit. Every faction in the Coalition has sent a representative. It's not just about new technology, it's about a new level of cooperation. We're going to need to bring all our strengths together, from weaponry to strategy, to face this threat head-on." The summit began the following day in the Grand Chamber of Coalition Command, a vast circular hall designed to seat representatives from each Coalition race. It was the first time since the formation of the Alliance that every seat was filled. Marquez felt a sense of pride as she took her place, representing humanity, but also a weight of responsibility. The Alliance was fragile, and she knew that the events of the summit would decide the future of their unity. As the discussions unfolded, tensions became apparent. The Zorian demanded immediate, preemptive strikes on suspected enemy locations. The Ozari argued for bolstered defenses and better intelligence. The Scifi proposed covert operations, while several other races hesitated, afraid of risking their worlds in a conflict that might not directly affect them. Then, one of the Ozari representatives, a diplomat named Kelleran, rose and addressed the room. "We cannot afford to let fear divide us. Humanity's rise has been nothing short of a miracle, and that should be a beacon of hope for all of us. But if we are to survive this coming darkness, we must forge a strategy that combines our strengths, that utilizes the skills of each member of this alliance. We must create something that goes beyond individual races and forms a coalition legacy." Marquez took a breath and stood to speak. "My people have learned that true strength lies not in any single weapon, but in our will to stand together. We cannot afford another Lieutenant Green. We cannot afford another betrayal. So, I propose that we create a task force, an elite group drawn from every race in the Coalition, trained and bound by loyalty to this alliance. Let it be called the Vanguard." A murmur rippled through the chamber, and Kelleran nodded approvingly. A vanguard would give us the reach, agility, and unity we need. This force could carry out missions on behalf of the coalition, trusted with the most critical assignment. After hours of debate, the representatives came to an agreement. The vanguard would be formed, its members selected for their loyalty and skill. This task force would be given the resources to act independently, answerable only to the Coalition Council. It was a bold plan, but boldness was a necessity in times of crisis. The first weeks of the vanguard's formation were intense. Marquez handpicked a team of officers, both human and alien, each chosen for their dedication and capability. Cus was appointed as her second-in-command, his fierce loyalty and tactical mind invaluable assets. Tanaka, who had uncovered Green's treachery, was placed in charge of engineering, while a Sulai scout named Dreen was brought on as the unit's covert operations specialist. The vanguard's first mission would take them to an uncharted sector, where intelligence indicated an unusual gathering of ships, possibly the precursor to another Dominion assault. The vanguard's orders were simple: investigate, and if necessary, neutralize the threat. As the vanguard's flame, their new flagship, exited hyperspace, the crew was met with a shocking sight. Before them lay a fleet of abandoned ships, their hulls scarred and their lights dark. The eerie silence filled the bridge with a sense of dread. Something had torn through this fleet with terrifying efficiency. Kurth's voice rumbled through the quiet. This wasn't the work of the Iskroll. Look at the precision of those strikes, every weak point targeted perfectly. Dreen ran scans from her station, her nimble fingers dancing over the console. Captain, I'm picking up faint energy signatures. Whatever destroyed these ships is still nearby. As Marquez prepared to order a retreat, a low, ominous hum filled the air. It began as a vibration through the hull, growing until it was a sound that resonated through every bulkhead, every wall. Suddenly, a cloaked vessel appeared, its form shimmering into existence before them. The ship was unlike anything they had encountered, its design alien even to the Coalition's diverse races. Sleek and angular, it radiated an energy Marquez recognized, same energy that powered the Ark Nova, but this was... The Vanguard returned to Coalition Command, their battered flagship, the Vanguard's flame, held together by emergency repairs. The alien ship they had encountered had vanished, but not before leaving scars on both their vessel and their minds. That brief encounter had shown them just how advanced and how ruthless this new enemy could be. Marquez called an emergency meeting of her top officers. Around her Saturday Kurth, his scales duller than usual from the strain. Tanaka, whose normally bright eyes were clouded with exhaustion, and Dreen, the Sulai scout who had yet to say a word since the encounter. The crew had never faced anything like this before. Marquez began, her voice steady but grave. We barely survived that ambush. Whatever that ship was, it wasn't from any known species. They had technology far beyond anything we've seen, shields that could bend reality, weapons that could slice through hulls with surgical precision. We need to understand what we're facing before we engage them again. Tanaka spoke up. Captain, I managed to collect some data on their energy signatures. It's not just advanced tech, it's almost alive. The energy fields respond to their environment in real time. I've never seen anything like it. Kaz grunted. And what about that symbol, that emblem we saw on their hull? I don't recognize it, but I could feel it, as if it was watching us. If they wanted to leave us a message, they succeeded. Dreen finally broke a silence, her voice a low whisper. It's a warning. In Sulai legends, we have stories of an ancient force, the Vasisura, a race who existed beyond the stars, who believed themselves the only worthy rulers of the galaxy. The symbol we saw, it matches the descriptions passed down in our oldest stories. Marquez leaned forward, listening intently. If these Vasisura are real, it would mean they predate any known civilization. Why reveal themselves now, and why target the Coalition? Dreen shook her head. In the stories, the Vasisura waited until species reached a certain level of development, until they posed a potential threat to their dominance. They would then eliminate any civilization that challenged the balance they believed was theirs alone to control. A grim silence fell over the room. Humanity's rise and the Coalition's strength had likely attracted the Vasisura's attention, awakening an ancient, dormant power. Determined to find answers, Marquez reached out to coalition intelligence networks, requesting access to classified archives. Days passed as she combed through records, piecing together fragments of forgotten lore and speculative reports. What she discovered painted a haunting picture. According to ancient records, the Vasisura were rumored to have once spanned entire galaxies, wielding technology that manipulated matter and energy at a level beyond even the Iskrul's hive-mind weapons. Stories spoke of their isolationist philosophy, their belief that the stars themselves were theirs by right. Every time a civilization grew powerful enough to rival them, they had intervened, obliterating all traces of the would-be contenders. One report caught Marquez's eye: a relic recovered decades ago from a remote sector, a metallic shard etched with symbols, similar to the Vasisura emblem, discovered on an uninhabited planet. It was believed to be a fragment of a larger artifact, possibly a warning beacon. She knew she needed to see it for herself. Marquez gathered her officers and informed them of her plan. "We're going to the uncharted sectors. I believe there's something out. There's something that can tell us what we're really up against." The journey took them to the edge of known space, to a desolate world that had long been avoided for its strange, unsettling energy fields. As the vanguard's flame descended, the crew could feel the pull of an ancient presence. They found the artifact in a barren canyon. Half buried in stone, it pulsed faintly with an energy that resonated with something deep inside each of them. Tanaka approached it cautiously, setting up her equipment to analyze the artifact. As she activated her scanner, the artifact hummed to life, casting a faint glow that illuminated strange markings across its surface. Suddenly, a holographic projection emerged, a vision of star systems laid waste, planets burning, fleets crumbling under overwhelming power. A deep voice echoed, translated into words they could understand. "You have reached the edge of our dominion. The Vasisura permit no rivals. You have been warned." The projection faded, and for a moment, they were left in silence, the weight of the message settling heavily on their minds. Kurth broke the silence. "They're taunting us. They want us to fear them, to retreat back to our worlds and submit. But if this is how they want to play, I say we show them what the coalition is capable of." Marquez nodded, determination hardening her resolve. "We can let them intimidate us. They see us as insects. But they've underestimated us before, and they will again. We've fought our way through every obstacle, and this will be no different." Tanaka glanced at the artifact. "We could use this. If I can reverse engineer the energy field, maybe we can find a way to replicate or counteract it. Imagine if we could use their own technology against them." Marquez's face lit up with a glimmer of hope. "Do it, Tanaka. But work quickly. If they realize we're studying their technology, they won't wait long before striking again." Back aboard the Vanguard's flame, Tanaka threw herself into analyzing the artifact. Working night and day, slowly, she uncovered insights into the Vasisura's power source's intricate energy matrices capable of adjusting to attacks, bending and redirecting them as needed. If they could adapt even a fraction of this technology, the coalition's ships would be leagues ahead of their current defensive capabilities. Meanwhile, Marquez and her crew prepared the coalition for the inevitable. Warnings went out to every member race. An ancient power was awake, and they were coming. The council met day and night, racing against time to bolster their defenses and gather intelligence. The coalition's vast network of spies and scouts scattered, seeking any sign of Vasisura presence. But the Vasisura were not idle. Reports came in of planets struck with terrifying precision, powerful ships slipping in and out of coalition space like phantoms, leaving devastation in their wake. It became clear that the Vasisura were testing them, probing their defenses, measuring their response.